Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. On the show tonight, Home Minister Sushil Kumar Shinde's shocker, his threat to crush the electronic media, and then his bizarre clarification that he was talking about the social media. But he isn't the only one. From the Congress to the BJP to the Aam Aadmi Party, political parties across the board are targeting the press. Are these attacks on the media an attempt to muzzle a free press? Also tonight, the Bombay High Court has questioned why Sanjay Dutt has got parole repeatedly, saying that the state government would not have done this for a common man. Is Sanjay Dutt getting VIP treatment? That's a little later in the show, but First, he said he would like to crush elements in the electronic media for orchestrating what he called nasty designs. But today, Home Minister Sushil Kumar Shinde did a U-turn which didn't make things any better. He said he was talking about social media and not the mainstream press. His statement, though, isn't the only one. From the Aam Aadmi Party's Arvind Kejriwal to the BJP, the media has been a soft target in recent weeks.
Electronic media मध्ये मोठ्या प्रमाणामध्ये बसल्या बसल्या कुरापती काढण्याचं काम होतं. माझ्याकडे इंटेलिजन्सचं खातं आहे, त्यामुळे ते काम कुठून होतं हे मला आता माहिती आहे.
First, the crushing faux pas. And then Home Minister Sushil Kumar Shinde's clarification, making matters worse.
मैंने कल बोला था, मेरे पास रिकॉर्डिंग भी है उसका, और मैंने सोशल मीडिया के बारे में बोला था, जो नॉर्थ ईस्ट के बच्चों पर अत्याचार होता है. हमने जर्नलिज्म के बारे में कुछ नहीं कहा.
Congress party leaders stunned themselves as the BJP accused them of being unable to handle negative press.
Freedom of press is integral to India's democracy. We are very proud of India's media. And for him to say like that, look within your backyards.
Anyone across, not my party or government in any party, speaks about curbing the freedom of speech and expression in our country, whether it's through media or whether it's through individual expression. I'm dead against it.
It's not just the Congress. Aam Aadmi Party's Arvind Kejriwal, former Army Chief V.K. Singh, and even BJP's Goa Chief Minister Manohar Parrikar, all in the news for targeting the media. Parrikar accusing many journalists of doing opposition-sponsored paid news reporting.
The lack of substantial evidence and the venomous attitude of the political class.
If the Home Minister of India strikes that note, I find it frightening.
Media bashing isn't really new, but wanting to crush us, calling journalists prostitutes, the assaults have indeed reached a new low. While all political parties insist they respect the freedom of the press, truth is, a free media is also what makes them very often very insecure. In Mumbai, Tejas Mehta for NDTV.
So is this an attempt by political parties across the board to muzzle a free press? At the end of the day, if all political parties are criticizing the media, then maybe the media is doing its job, or is there some need to introspect on the part of the media in this country as well? Joining us tonight, first we have Mr. N. Ravi, the President of the Editors Guild of India, who joins us tonight from Chennai. Author and columnist Santosh Desai here in the studio with us. Our politicians on the panel this evening: Prakash Javadekar, Rajya Sabha MP and spokesperson of the BJP; Salban Soos, national spokesperson of the Congress; and Professor Anand Kumar, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Ravi, to you first. How does the Editors Guild respond, sir, to Mr. Shinde's comments? You made a very strong statement yesterday on Mr. Kejriwal's attack on the media. Since then, the controversy over the Home Minister has broken out. His U-turn, many would say, hasn't made things much better. What would be your response?
Nidhi, well, when the Editors Guild statement was issued yesterday, I thought Kejriwal's wild charges or V.K. Singh's abuse was bad enough, but what came later, that is Mr. Shinde's statement, was infinitely worse. Here is a Home Minister who threatens to crush the electronic media because they are working against his party, and he laces it with dark hints of his control over the intelligence agencies. Now, even if you take it as an empty boast to impress party cadre, you still have, it's not becoming of a Home Minister to speak the language of threat and destruction in the manner of a street bully. I think it's very unfortunate.
Why do you think, though, that there have been these attacks on the media, sir, not just from Mr. Shinde and Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, but even the BJP? It's happening across the political spectrum. Why in this election in particular have we seen more of this?
Tempers are high, and I think politicians face a great deal of uncertainty in the coming elections, and the media are also questioning them more closely and scrutinizing them more closely, and probably coming out with more thorough assessments of their fortunes, which makes politicians very angry. I think there has always been a love-hate relationship between politicians and the media. The experienced politicians think they may hate the media, but they also know that they had to live with the media. So they generally avoid harsh comments, whatever they feel. They may feel murderous, but they might still smile through an interview. But
at least some of them
sometimes
still give interviews.
their mask is off, and the real, I think, thoughts come out.
Well, I just want to take this to Salman Soz of the Congress Party. Mr. Soz, you know, the Home Minister said one thing, it's on camera. What he said about crushing the electronic media is on camera. He can't really, you know, deny it. We've heard it. It's there for everyone to hear. What he said after that in his so-called clarification actually seems to have made things worse. He says, I wasn't talking about journalists. I was talking about the social media. Is it okay to crush the social media is my question. Is it okay to be crushing anybody in this country? Mr. Soz.
It is not okay to crush anybody in this country, Nidhi. I think the Congress Party is fully behind the freedom of media in this country. I think we have a very vibrant media. As far as Mr. Shinde has clarified, he clarified that he was talking about social media, but even in this, in this day and age, in the 21st century, social media, you cannot kind of really rein in social media. Yes, I think it's an open secret that on social media we should be concerned to some extent about what the kind of stuff we see on social media. At the same time, I think the choice of the word crush, I think, is unfortunate. But beyond that, we should also be aware that there are many things that happen on social media, which I'm sure that you're also targeted, as I am, and many other people are, in the most virulent way. And I think to some extent we have to deal with that. But I don't think these types of terms are helpful. I think we have to get away from this kind of stuff. And I think, let's face it, media is an extremely important pillar of our democracy, and it should flourish, as should our democracy.
But Mr. Soz, this is, this is not something we can just smile about and sort of move on. And the reason is that this is the Home Minister of India who has clearly used the term electronic media's nasty designs. He has, as Mr. Ravi was talking about, alluded to the fact that the intelligence wing comes under him and that he's keeping checks on the media. So there is something that is very, very serious at the heart of his statement that we need answers on, that Mr. Shinde perhaps needs to clarify further, because his clarification frankly doesn't hold. We've heard what he's had to say, and to suggest that he's using intelligence agencies to keep checks on the media is very, very worrying, Mr. Soz.
Yeah, actually, if I may, first, perhaps the Home Minister will clarify further. I cannot speak for him. But I think one of the things that he did kind of talk about was some, I guess they get briefings about some threats and other such behavior or misbehavior with students from Northeast in other parts of the country when they come to study elsewhere. Perhaps it is in that context that he used the topic of intelligence agencies, because, after all, as a Home Minister, he has to worry about the security of people. But I'm sure he can clarify further, but that is my sense. Perhaps that is the context, but I'm not really sure.
Well, your spokesperson today said that his statement was directed at the BJP's paid team that targets anyone that criticizes Narendra Modi. Mr. Javadekar, this seems to have become a political battle in this election where the media is now caught in the middle. And everyone is accusing everyone else of being paid by the opposition camp. Mr. Parikar virtually said that the other day in Goa, saying that that the opposition was paying off the media to target him. Mr. Kejriwal is already saying that. Today you had Mr. Shinde threatening to crush the electronic media. Have we become part of this political crossfire in these elections?
First, it is very important subject, and I must congratulate you that you took this serious issue for debate. But more importantly, anybody saying else and Home Minister saying crushing, we will crush the media, electronic, and then he says social media, is absolutely deplorable every free or democratic person must condemn and will condemn, and he has not apologized. I demand his apology over this remark. But there is a history to it. What is the history? Nobody should forget. I object your statement saying that you are equating all parties together. But Congress in its lifetime, and the only time after independent India imposed restrictions on media, imposed censorship, and that was during the period of 75, and to fight against that imposition of censorship, we were put behind the bars because we fought on the street and we were behind the bars for 16 months in our youth at the age of 25. So you can't compare anybody's utterance or anybody's criticism to media with that of the Congress, because Congress DNA is dictatorial and it always has resorted to that course when they stare defeat. What was the situation in 75? There was a groundswell support rising for
Mr.
GP.
Javadekar, at the same time, the BJP can't say that everyone who criticizes Narendra Modi or any report that is written against Mr. Parikar can't say that that means the opposition has paid off journalists in Goa to write against him. Everything can't be paid.
No, because, no, if you are ready as a journalist, if you are ready to forget the only time when Indian media was clamped its freedom.
No one's forgetting that. I'm asking all the
but
parties
that is entirely
tonight.
different. Anybody's utterance or anybody's allegation or anybody's criticism cannot be equated with the action of Congress, which destroyed the freedom of media. The whole country fought it out. We were put behind the bars, and then now the media freedom has come. And now that is what I am saying. So Congress is on an entirely different footing. We must put them as an oppressor of a media.
Okay, at a higher pedestal of oppression is what you're saying. You seem to be saying. Salman Soz wants to respond to you. Then I'll come to Mr. Desai and Professor Kumar. Yes.
You know, Nidhi, with all due respect to Javadekar Sahab, I think the sanctimonious attitude of the BJP is laughable. Have they forgotten how they went after Tehelka and Outlook? Have they forgotten that Alex Perry of Time magazine was virtually hounded in this country by their activists? Time magazine had to come out with a statement saying that they're worried about his safety. And the same Time magazine, by the way, which their activists now are trying to promote Mr. Modi on for Person of the Year, they're going to tell us and everybody else, their activists, official people in the BJP, talk openly on Twitter and Facebook about how they're Godse lovers. And would love to see. Yes, I have it. It is all out there.
Congress cannot.
No, what, Mr. Javadekar? This is true.
Mr. Salman
there are no lies here.
This
is your people being virulent. Ask anybody. You ask anybody on Twitter and Facebook. The most virulent people are people
as a
who
BJP,
are associated
we have our
website.
Our
Sangh
we
and
have
the
our
BJP.
policies on our website. So don't charge.
What
okay,
policy?
One second.
What policy?
And
one second. This is not a debate about Twitter wars, because that's very different.
You people have very dangerous tendencies for this country.
You know, I'm going to come back to what the Congress has done to the press in just a moment, but I just want to ask Professor Anand Kumar. Professor Kumar, we heard Arvind Kejriwal's attack on the media, where essentially we've seen a change in the AAP's attitudes toward the press in the last couple of months. The moment the media started criticizing Arvind Kejriwal, and I think it began with the dharna and his taking over as Chief Minister of Delhi, you saw a shift in the media coverage. You saw a lot of criticism. Why is it that the same media, which was actually criticized by other parties for giving Mr. Kejriwal and your party too much publicity at one time, is now accused by your party of propaganda at the behest of the opposition? After all, you will be criticized as well.
No, Nidhi, there is no problem in criticism. Actually, in the eyes of other people, the relationship between media and Aam Aadmi Party's relationship between mother and child, they all say that we are born out of your OB vans. The problem is confusing between media industry and media culture. In media culture, there is nothing which can be objected, because there has to be freedom to air also, freedom to make mistakes on the part of the media. But media industry is becoming more and more plagued with a variety of problems, some of which are already put before the Press Council and Supreme Court of India by media people, paid journalism, and then black money, and then the confusion between board and editorial board. The board of directors is commanding in certain newspapers, in certain television channels, over the news editors, over the news board. So we will like this to be separated, as many of you will like to have it. Autonomy of the media journalists or media persons has to be restored, and if we are pointing to that, it is an idea which is already there among the professionals, but we have nothing to object, and if we have objected, please excuse us about media culture. You have the right to criticize.
While I take your point, there is a very important point you make, which I will bring that to the notice of the editors on our panel tonight. The valid questions I think that have also been raised about media ownership and so on. At the same time, when Mr. Kejriwal says that they attacked me for having a 3-bedroom house, why are they after me? I have no affection with that house. I told them to ask where Modi gets his chopper from and ask about Rahul Gandhi's crores. The point is, it seems that the AAP has taken every criticism as to suggest that it's been done at the behest of the opposition. Mr. Somnath Bharti, when he was questioned on his midnight raid, turned around and told those journalists that you've been paid by Narendra Modi. How can you say that if there is a valid criticism that is raised? For which he apologized.
I think when Somnathji asked that question, it was a wrong question, and of course it was followed by a public apology. Yes, when Arvind Kejriwal was trying to ask, why are you so unhappy with my 3 or 4 or 5 bedroom apartment, which is comparatively, in comparison to the previous chief minister's residence, is really nothing. It's simply a middle class housing. I think he was making a point of a very personal and emotional nature. But if the journalists want to write about it, why not? I mean, let them say that Arvind Kejriwal should live in much modest housing, and we'll take that point.
That doesn't mean he should assume that every criticism of him is motivated, should he? It's not.
No, certainly not. Certainly not.
Okay, at least you agree on that. Santosh Desai, you've written a very interesting column on the media and this particular election. Take us through what you're seeing happening right now. On one hand, you get a sense that the media is very important. That is why today you have a very organized system where parties depute spokespersons for television shows like this. Everyone is well represented every night. On the other hand, top leaders often do not give interviews. They still, really don't care whether they come on television or speak to a newspaper or not. Many regional leaders are the same. What is the trend that you're seeing in this election?
See, I think the traditional wisdom in some senses has been the fact that media is important when it comes to governing the country, and then when you are actually ruling the country, media plays a great role in determining the narrative. But it does not traditionally play a role in determining electoral fortunes. This is national media, drawing rooms, urban reach. I think for the first time that very cozy kind of a separation, I think, is blurring. And I think there is this sense that media this time around is playing a much more significant role and could play a role in determining final electoral outcomes. Part of this comes because you have urban formations like the AAP, which clearly derive a lot from media. Also in part from Narendra Modi's progress, as opinion polls sort of suggest that, month after month there is some ground that is being gained. And there is some correlation perhaps that is being seen with media. So I think one is the sudden or the new recognition of the electoral significance in a national level of media, which also gives rise to anxiety. On the other hand, because increasingly media, in the way that it approaches news, offers much more opinion, frames news much more through a very strong filter of opinion. And it's not just opinion, it is very, very sharply stated opinion. Less reportage, more opinion. Add to it, doubts about who owns it, what are the motivations. So what you have is what was otherwise seen to be a relatively neutral space. Today, increasingly, is very difficult to think of media as a neutral space, partly because of its own, how it frames news.
But then the question is that if today the media is under attack from all political formations, at least the main parties, then is the media doing something right? I mean, forget Congress, BJP and AAP. Even Akhilesh Yadav was quick to blame the media after Muzaffarnagar and the stories that were highlighted on what happened there. If everyone is criticizing us, maybe we're doing our job.
Well, that is one comforting kind of a way of looking at it. But I think the other view is perhaps the fact that it is plausible that everyone, it's not just the political parties that they criticize, when they get criticized is natural. I mean, that's not a big deal. What is different is that today the traction that has among people, the suggestion that media is motivated, the idea that media does not report what it sees from a neutral ground, but because of a reason, that has gained much greater ground today than it has, say, 5 years ago. And I think for media not to acknowledge that and not to subject itself to scrutiny would be an act of self-deception.
Very important point. I'll take that to Mr. N. Ravi. Mr. Ravi, what would you then make of what Mr. Desai has said about the need for the media to then introspect? That today, are we as a profession also coming under increasing scrutiny, not just television, but newspapers as well? There are questions about ownership in the electronic media. There are questions about newspapers, their ownership patterns, their political ideologies. What would you say to that? Are we increasingly as a profession not seen as a neutral profession?
Well, I think media ownership, diversity and media could be important issues to discuss and address. But at this stage, when we have an infinite number of newspapers and television channels, a great diversity of the media, I think it's not the time now to address such issues, because what we have now is a very wide spectrum of support for different parties, many voices, an infinite number of viewpoints being expressed and support expressed to different sections and different parties. So it's not a question of one concentrated move of the media to one side or the other, but still a great deal of diversity does exist in the media. So it's not a major issue, I would think, at this point. On the other hand, the relationship between politicians and the media is, as one British writer put it in The Guardian quite recently, is marked by, as he put it, cheerful loathing, grudging respect and mutual dependence. These three form the basis of interaction between the media and politicians. And very often politicians tend to attack the media, raise questions about the media ownership, raise questions about media bias and so on, to avoid addressing the real issues, real hard questions thrown at them.
Okay, Mr. Javadekar, Mr. Ravi says the problem is that the media then is, in a sense, becomes a soft target because you don't want to answer the difficult questions as a political class that are thrown at you.
No, absolutely not. I don't agree. I am a member of the Press Council also. And I have worked, TRI has started a discussion on cross-media ownership. And I brought that report to Press Council and asked all Press Council members to give his opinion and form Press Council, opinion of the Press Council as such. And I think that will be now given. The issue is, even I was on a subcommittee which has recommended that in the pink papers, economic activities reporting papers, there has to be a clarification of private treaties entered into by the newspaper with particular industry when their news or views or analysis or articles are written. Because unless you become more and more transparent, that will not grow. But I don't believe in any kind of control from outside. No way. It has to be a self-evolving mechanism. What can be that mechanism is also has to be decided in media. The electronic media under Justice Verma has formed a committee. Now after Justice Verma, who is heading that I don't know. But I know for certain because we interviewed him and they at least established a semblance of a sanity, not going always sensational, and many things they could curb. I think that self-restraint is very important and that media has to evolve. It is not from the outside, not from the government at all, to be imposed.
Well, Well, at least there's somebody who's standing in the corner of the electronic media. I want to get quick last comments. Salman Soos, the point that Mr. Javadekar made earlier, which a lot of journalists are asking tonight, is should Mr. Shinde apologize for what he said? I again say it's a serious comment. It comes from the Home Minister, and the suggestion that intelligence agencies are being used is something that worries people. Should he apologize for this?
Look, Nidhi, I've put forward the Congress party's perspective on where we stand as far as the freedom of media is concerned. As far as Mr. Shinde and whether or not he should apologize, I leave that to his best judgment. But I think he may clarify further, so we'll have to wait for that. I do agree to some extent with what Mr. Javadekar was saying in response to Mr. Ravi's comment. You know, it's not a simple matter of, the political parties are trying to deflect tough questions and they are now blaming the media. You know, I don't think that's quite there at all, because, you know, I cannot tell you how many times I've been speaking on economic affairs, which I typically talk about. And, you know, we had the BJP person there, you have some other political person there, and they put some sort of a neutral observer, neutral kind of commentator. And I cannot tell you how many times that person is using BJP talking points. How is that neutrality? So I can give you upteen examples. Yes, there are issues. What I do...
On the other side, they can say that there are people who are neutral who seem to be pro-Congress.
I can tell you what I do. What I do is I call them out. I call them out right there to their face. But, you know, maybe as far as ownership of media is concerned, because, you know, media is not a regular business. So it's a very important part of a democracy, but it's not your typical business where somebody owns this business. I think ownership patterns should be made transparent. I think that will be even more helpful to our democracy. One final point on the Aam Aadmi Party. Where were they? Well, I didn't hear them complain. The only person who was complaining about the Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal taking the media spotlight away from Mr. Modi was Mr. Modi. Arvind Kejriwal was having a great time till he quit. After he's quit repeatedly from various posts, like he was in the IRS with Tata and with Anna Hazare, he quit everything and then he quit the chief ministership. Then people raised legitimate questions about Mr. Kejriwal and his behavior. So now they're upset. Now they want to vilify everybody else. So when they were riding this popularity wave with the help of media, frankly, and Mr. Modi was very upset about it, that time Mr. Kejriwal was happy. And now this tables have turned, and now he's very... This is, you know, welcome to the real world, Mr. Kejriwal. Welcome to the real world.
Well, I have to leave it at that, I'm afraid, this evening. But I think there are some interesting points and important points that have been raised by everyone, including the fact that perhaps the media also needs to look inward and scrutinize. It doesn't, though, forgive the fact that the kind of statements that we've heard in the last few days have been absolutely astonishing, and certainly crushing the media isn't, even the social media, is something that is acceptable in a democracy like ours. Thank you to all of you for joining us. Salman Soos will stay with us, because when we come back after this break, we're going to talk about the Bombay High Court that has questioned the Maharashtra government on why there has been repeated parole that has been given to actor Sanjay Dutt. Is he being treated like a VIP in jail? That's after the break.